Okay, so as you know, this is the environmental toxicity monitoring aspect. So what we're going to be doing is taking the fish that have just come out of the hole, they're kept outside in the tanks of water that we have to refresh every once in a while. 2 tanks of water out on the right. We should have mostly flat fish. Fish are going to come in and first thing we're going to do is take a blood sample from them, and then we're going to dissect them up and basically look at the anatomy of the fish. We're going to go through all the different tissues. In your protocol, we've outlined the different tissues that we're going to be collecting. And this morning I told you why we look at certain tissues. For example, the liver, that's where all the detoxification happens when they're exposed to contaminants. So it's a very important tissue. The tissues will be dissected. They'll be stored in little tubes, depending on the size, either 2 ml Eppendorf tubes, or I have plastic bags. And then I have a box of dry ice here, and we put them straight into dry ice. So you want to get all this done. I mean, obviously you don't want to be killing yourselves, but you know, the tissue is deteriorating and the enzymes and proteins are deteriorating the longer the fish is left dead. So we want to get them onto the ice as quick as possible. So as I say, these are real samples. That's why I brought the dry ice. I'm bringing these samples back to the lab with me. So the first thing we're going to do is go out, grab some fish, bring them in. We'll take the blood first, euthanize the fish, then we'll weigh, measure and do the species. Then we'll dissect out the different tissues and go through it. I'll go through it once with you, and then, as I say, we've got 4 stations at the moment. We can do another 1 or 2, and then each of you take a fish and do the same thing. And tomorrow you'll be doing it on your own, and then I'll just be shadowing just to make sure that everything goes okay. Roisin, can I have a fish, please? Yeah, just some sort of a flat fish. A place there is good, yeah. To go in below the lateral line. Try and get in towards the spine. And there we go. So you do need a bit of a steady hand, because if you move too much, you'll move the blade. You could get 2 mils out. So we have our vial open, take the needle out and then put the blood into your Eppendorf. The needle away. Now that's our blood sample. So we've nearly 1.5 mils of blood in that. So we're going to invert it 10 times, gently. And then we leave it for 20 minutes at room temperature to clot. And then we're going to centrifuge it down and separate out the serum from the clot, and it's the serum that we store and work on.
19.5.
There you go.
0.077.
7.7 grams. So you can see, first of all, this is a place, okay? Obviously it's a flat fish. You know it's a place because of these very distinctive orange spots on it, okay? As I mentioned, this is the lateral line. This is your dorsal fin, it's your ventral fin. Okay, you can see the gills in there, yeah. Obviously enough. Just behind that, you'll see that this is all the flesh of the fish, which is what we eat. This cavity here, that's the visceral cavity. The same as in a round fish. You can see in a round fish, it's kind of goes along the length of the body, whereas in a flat fish, it's kind of a circular just behind the head. So slightly different. All the same tissues and organs are going to be in there. Just have a little feel there. You can just have a feel. You can feel that it's where all the organs and tissues are kept. The rest of it is actually the flesh of the meat that we eat. So, okay, so we want to dissect out the different tissues. Now, the gills are easy enough to get at. I'm going to use tweezers. So this cover is called the operculum. So we're going to cut that off. Sometimes it's much easier to use a scissors rather than a scalpel. moving. Okay. So obviously you can see the gills, they're a big independent tissue, easy enough to dissect out, just a bit fiddly. Okay, so that's pretty much the gills taken out. Now again, if we needed these, I don't need these for my study, but if you needed them, dissect them out, put them into either a bag or a small container and put them straight on ice. So next up we're going to go into the visceral cavity. Now, when you're doing this yourselves, you can probably be a bit less precise. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't damage any of the tissues so that we see where everything is. So, what do we have here? This large orangey tissue, that's the liver. So that's, for me, the main tissue that I'm interested in. Okay, now when you're dissecting it, I don't know if you can see, here, towards the end of the liver, there's a little sac. It's a little green sac, and that's the bile, that's full of bile. Okay, so you want to try not to puncture that when you're dissecting, because then you'll get the bile onto everything. So try, now it's difficult enough, but try if you can to dissect it out without bursting the bile sac. Okay, so that's our liver. So, you know, relatively small fish, that's a decent sized tissue. So this is the bile sac. Here, okay, it's still intact. See this little one here, this little tissue here, that's the heart. So yeah, quite small for, well again, this is a small fish. So you can see it's still, yeah, it's obviously just nervous energy is still going through it. Okay. And next up, we've got the stomach and the intestines. Okay, so this is the stomach. So again, you can see that there's just connective tissue keeping it all together. They're all independent tissues, just connected with a bit of connective tissue. So it's easy enough to dissect them all out individually. As I say, scissors and forceps are the easiest for this. Okay. And then we've got the intestine there as well. So let's get that out. So again, there's the bile sac, so it's still intact, it's not. So if I cut that, actually, do you know what? That's the kidney. Now, on a round fish, no, it's not. Sorry, there's the kidney. remember you asked earlier on where the kidney was, and I said it's along the spine of the fish, the backbone of the fish. Well, I don't know if you can see there, the top of the visceral cavity, along the spine, you can see that there's tissue. See it there? So that's the kidney there. So again, on sometimes you can actually see that there's the swim bladder. So you can actually see that there's a sac of air that's just in front of, not all, but particularly when you're looking with salmonids, it's really obvious. It's really obvious to see. So basically, to get the kidney out now, it's easier on a flat on a round fish. But what you want to do is just cut around it and then basically scrape it out, because it's very much compacted against the spine. And then pretty much the rest of the animal is the flesh, is the actual flesh here. So obviously up this end, behind the eyes, you've got the brain, and which is pretty linked into the heart, which was about here. You've got the brain, and then you've got your otoliths are up there as well. I'm not going to dissect them because I think you did that the other day. So so that's up the top end there, and obviously there's where the spine goes down. So now I think you're probably a lot more experienced than I am of getting the flesh off yeah.
I'm a round fish, yeah.
Round fish man. So to be honest with you, you don't well, it depends on what samples people are looking for. The flatfish the flesh will generally just be for chemical analysis, because they'll just be trying to look at what concentrations of tissues are on it. So the fish can be difficult to hold, so wet tissue really helps. Oh, sorry. So basically start at the spine and try and work your way out, and then just separate the flesh off. Again, this is a small fish, so it's a bit trickier. But that's basically it. Go down along the spine and then go along the bones, and then just like if you're eating a cooked fish. So the liver goes in here, and that's going to go directly onto dry ice. And then we've got another one for the kidney. It's easier to use tubes like this rather than bags, because these can be stored in little boxes, and the labels are left up, so it's much quicker and easier to identify them. So I'm just going to take these and put them on the dry ice. Sorry. Again, dry ice, it's cold, not dangerous, but you don't want your naked skin touching it, so have your gloves on. Edges. Do you know what you could do? Turn that upside down. Take the fish out, turn that upside down, and work on the other end. Oh yeah, that looks like you're getting... So pull out slightly. If you see it stops, just pull out slightly. You can get it restarted again. Turn the fish slightly.
that is yours.
and a slight angle.
Oh, Jesus.
Feels fine.
You can't wait to get it now.
Back slightly.